So today's gospel is the wedding feast at Cana, the beginning of Jesus' public ministry. And there's so much that could be said about this story. It's truly rich in symbolism and meaning. I want us to think a little more deeply about the nature of marriage and why Jesus begins his ministry here. Now, in recent years, we know that marriage has been under attack by the secular world. The truth that everyone has known for millennia has been suddenly questioned as never before. The most basic definition, which you can find in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, the Code of Canon Law, and the Second Vatican Council document Gaudium et Spes, is that, and I quote, "The matrimonial covenant by which a man and a woman establish between themselves a partnership of the whole of life is by its nature ordered toward the good of the spouses and the procreation and education of offspring. This covenant between baptized persons has been raised by Christ the Lord to the dignity of a sacrament." So, we know that a marriage is a covenant, which is a sacred agreement between two people in the presence of God. We know that it must be between a man and a woman only. We know that there are two ends of a marriage: the good of the spouses, meaning the spouses care for each other and work to assure that each other reach heaven, and the procreation and education of offspring, which should be self-explanatory and is why it must be a man and a woman. We further know that Christ, through his work at the wedding at Cana, elevated it to one of the 7 sacraments. Now, I'll be honest. This definition can seem technical, cold. And when we are speaking about something as beautiful as marriage, this kind of language seems insufficient. If we want a richer expression of the Catholic viewpoint of marriage, the first stop is Pope St. John Paul II, who wrote more on marriage than any other pope in history. He focused on the beauty of the sacramental covenant, of the sacrifice of marriage, and of the essential element of love. He was not naive, however, and understood the complexities of marriage in the modern fallen world. Probably the most important insight from JP2 was that in order to have a correct understanding of marriage, we must have a correct understanding of the human person, and vice versa. In order to have a correct understanding of the human person, we must have a correct understanding of marriage. The two are intricately linked and go back to the first humans, Adam and Eve. Remember that in the beginning of the book of Genesis, we hear that God created humans in the image and likeness of himself. We are created in the image and likeness of God. God is love and does everything out of love. That means that we humans have love as a central aspect of who we are. God is also relational, meaning he lives in relationship with others. This is the essence of the Trinity, the 3 persons in one God, whose relationship spawns creation. This is because love is relational. That means that there must be both one who loves and one who is loved. Love never exists in a vacuum. This love and relationality are imprinted in our very essence, since we are made in the image and likeness of God. And since we are at our heart people of love and relationship, we are made incomplete. By this I mean we are made to find our completeness in another person. This, by the way, is so important to our understanding of gender and sex. Also, in the creation story, we hear that God created us male and female. Male and female are equal in the sense that we are all humans, but not equal in the sense that we are unique in our capabilities. Both male and female are necessary for completeness. The blending of the two unique genders is such a damaging aspect of our current culture and goes against the truth, which is God. Returning to JP2 and his understanding of marriage and humanity, he argues that marriage is the first and fundamental communion of people that is the basis for all other communion of persons. In other words, as relational people, we live in communion with other people. We often call these our communities. The church is a community. The town is a community. The state is a community. The nation is a community, etc. All of the other communities are based on the first and most important community, marriage. Marriage and family are the basis for our entire human structure. This is why the evil one is constantly attacking and trying to destroy marriage and the family. Once marriage and the family are destroyed, the rest of society goes with it. Not to be an alarmist, but we have to see some of these signs in our own times. And again, JP2 was not naive and saw all of this, but it never destroyed his hope, nor should it destroy ours. This is, again, because God gave us this beautiful sacrament, and we know he wins in the end. And we have great examples of beautiful families in our midst who continue God's plan. One other important aspect of Pope St. John Paul II's theology of marriage and human is the centrality of gift. He echoed again the Vatican II document Gaudium et Spes, which states that man can fully discover his true self only in a sincere giving of himself. Life is the greatest gift from God. All human life is a gift, even human life that is unwanted. Since all human life is a gift, in married life, spouses must work to be gifts and giving for each other. It is impossible to have a successful, selfish marriage. This is one of the most important messages that has to be conveyed in marriage preparation. As those of you who are married well know, each marriage will go through rough passages, some more than others. Those rough passages are where the marriage is tested, and the spouses are tested both individually and collectively, and where the spouses must work to be gifts for each other. Spouses who are selfish in the face of struggle will bring the marriage down with them. Again, this is all possible if we keep love, relationship, sacrifice, and gift as the center of our marriages, and quite frankly, all of our relationships. There's so much more that can be said about the gift that is Pope John Paul II's theology of marriage. I definitely recommend reading more of what he says about it. But I also have to point out that he was not alone in this development. In fact, he was heavily influenced by a relatively unknown but extremely important German Catholic philosopher and theologian by the name of Dietrich von Hildebrand. In the early 20th century, he saw that the church was moving towards a juridical, technical presentation of marriage, almost devoid of the importance of love. In response, he wrote a short but extremely important book on marriage in 1929, which refocused the Catholic understanding of marriage on love and relationality. This work was the most influential work for JP2 as well as the Second Vatican Council and the Catechism. And as a side note, he continued to elevate our understanding of the human person until he died in 1977, when his wife Alice took up the torch until her death just yesterday. And so we pray for the repose of her soul. All of this is possible because God gave us the wonderful gift of marriage from the very beginning of creation. Christ's actions at the wedding in Cana blessed and confirmed the goodness of marriage in the plan of salvation and solidified it as a sacrament. His actions revealed his glory, but they also revealed the glory of marriage. We ask God to continue to bless all of the marriages of those who are gathered here today. And we ask for God's blessing on all of our children who are or who will someday contemplate marriage.